Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs. Hello, DamFam, and welcome to Season 5 and episode number 806 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Oh, Canada. Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day, is Monday, December 8th, 2025. It's the start of a bright and fresh new week with no mistakes in it, as Anne Shirley would say. And then I turned on the computer and saw Trump's name on it. And then, well, you know. I'm kidding. It is a wonderful new week ahead of us. So I hope that you have big plans and projects and stuff down your to-do list to check off, and that you are going to get that little hit of dopamine every time you check something off that list, especially since we are on our way, for those of us who are celebrating and observing Christmas, which usually has people relatively busy, not only with house parties and events and stuff like that, but cooking and shopping and presents and travel plans and all of that stuff. So it can be a little bit of a harrowing time of year. It could be busy. So taking times for deep breaths. And of course, Christmas is not the only thing being celebrated, of course, and lots of other people have lots going on too this time of year. But for those of us who do the Christmas thing, and I know I just said do again, we're looking at about 17 days, about. Yeah, at our house, I forgot to do it this year, so I'm going to have to do it a couple days late. But because my Beaver sweetie is Orthodox, Romanian Orthodox, I guess. They have something like 3 Santa Clauses or something, and Mokrashun, I think, is the first one. Apparently was supposed to come on the 6th and leave some either coins or candies in the shoes of the little boys and girls, and there were no candies or money in shoes of the sometimes child with whom I'm living. So I have to make sure at some point to go and do that, and just say that most Krishna's watch was late or something. I forgot. I had it written on the calendar too, and I forgot. I'm a terrible boyfriend. I will make it up to him. I did make dinner the last 2 nights though, and they were really good, so that kind of compensates. My Beaver sweetie's been rather busy, because he's teaching, and there's lots of marking around this time of year, and exam vigilating and stuff like that. So I've been picking up the slack at home while he's been very busy, like he did for me while I was busy with the show. All right, that's how we help each other out here. All right, kits and cubs. How is, let's see, big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Mystery Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. I'm tripping over my tongue this morning. And of course, not with me as usual is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly, but he did meet his goal of having a grizzly growl every evening last week. So hopefully he can maintain that pace and we'll be back to our regular dose of daily grizzly, if not beaver and grizzly together at the same time. But we will try to arrange that. As you know, we have set aside December 20th for our pubcast, our December Christmas pubcast. So hopefully you can join us. But hopefully we will have some beaver and grizzly time on air together prior to that. All right. And, well, kids and cubs, how's your mental health doing today? Mine's doing pretty well, I have to say. I'm a little more rested. Again, have needed the alarm most mornings. This morning I didn't need it, but I just woke up like maybe about 15 minutes before it. And normally I check the clock before I leave the bedroom in the morning when nature calls, and I didn't. And while I was there, the alarm went off, so my beaver sweetie got woken up because I was too far away to turn it off quickly. Fortunately, he fell asleep very quickly afterwards, so I think no harm done, and I will be okay for the rest of the day. All right, kids and cubs. So yeah, I'm feeling very well. A little more rested body wise. I feel more rested. I really thought I would have had more energy over the course of the weekend to go and do things and be active, but I didn't. I was still rather tired. However, I did go see two shows, and it's been a big theater month for me. But my good friend Erin, uh, her son Micah was in a local production of School of Rock. And just to give you an idea how tired I was last week, I had tickets for the Wednesday show. And on Wednesday, my Beaver Sweetie and I were talking about buying tickets to go see another show. There's a Christmas play every year at our local community theater, Domino, the board of which I've served on for 3 years. Um, and I like to support them, and their Christmas productions are pretty good. Um, but I was talking to him on Wednesday about buying tickets to go see that show sometime this weekend, and totally forgot I had tickets for a show that very night. So Wednesday went by, and around 9:25, 9:27 in the evening, the light went on. Say, "Oh my God, I was supposed to go see a show tonight." And then I went online to look to see if I can find tickets to see it again, and then it was, of course, sold out. And then around 10:30, I got a text message from my friend Erin. "So, how did you like the show? I didn't see you there." And I didn't have the heart to write her to tell her that I didn't see it because I missed it, simply because I forgot. Uh, well, I did find the courage to finally fess up. Uh, and there was like an "oh no" answer. And then the next day, she wrote me and said that a friend of hers who had 2 tickets, well, their daughter was not able to go because she was under the weather and would I like the ticket? And I said, yes. So I got to see it anyway. And Aaron asked me, well, why don't you come over for a glass of wine before? And I'm thinking, well, yeah, I'd love to, but why would I do that? The place where we're going to see the show is literally 3 blocks from where I live, and you're in like an hour bus ride from where I live. She says, but I was thinking that, but I didn't say that. And I said, yeah, sure, I'd love to, but I'm a little far off. And she says, oh, well, Andrea can pick you up. No problem. We'll have wine together and then we'll go to the show. And it was when I got there at her place that I realized that the show we were going to see was School of Rock at Holy Cross School. And all week long, I thought the play that musical I had missed was Elf, being played at Regiopolis School. The only thing I had right is that there was a musical and that it was at a Catholic high school. Other than that, I had everything else wrong. That's how tired I was. Not only did I not remember there was a play, but up to the day after, because it didn't hit me that I was trying to find tickets to attend the wrong play at the wrong school. Yeah, your beaver was very tired. So, but as Shakespeare would say, all's well that ends well. So I did get to see it, and it was a wonderful performance. Micah, unfortunately, was a little under the weather, had a bad cold. You couldn't tell from his singing at all. Apparently, he was modulating, though, however, but you couldn't tell. So he delivered a great performance. He delivered all performances, even though he was sick before the first one started. So a real trooper. So way to go, Micah. You knocked it out of the park there, and I know what it's like performing sick. I had to once, and you know, you're behind stage, and you're like, oh, like this, and you're just waiting for your cue, and then like you muster all the energy you have because you do absolutely nothing behind stage. You just sit there like a lump and just like conserve energy, and you're thinking, okay, my next entrance on stage happens in about in a minute and a half, and I'm on stage for about 2 minutes and 15 seconds before I exit again. Okay, for 2 minutes and 15 seconds, just sing out Louise Pop, and then go behind the curtain and then follow again. They are really, really tough performances. But so I know what it takes to be a trooper like that. So congratulations to him for having pulled it through and not having anybody in the audience being able to pick up on the fact he was not well. And then the next day, we went to see Mrs. Bennet or Miss Bennet Christmas at Pemberley, which I didn't know much about. But it's a play that we had been trying to get on the schedule for several years, and turns out that it's all the characters from Pride and Prejudice and all of that. And I am ashamed to say that not only have I not read Pride and Prejudice, I have not seen the movies, I've not seen if there are plays, I've not seen it. I know about Mr. Darcy, and that's about it. So, uh, yeah, this was my first exposure, I think, to anything Jane Austen-ish in terms of characterization, and I really, really enjoyed it. I had 4 friends from the community in the play, so that was nice. It was nice to say hello to them and commend them on their performances. So bravo to you, Ashley and Justin and Emma and oh darn, I'm forgetting who the fourth person is off the top. Oh, and Dan. Absolutely, how could I forget Dan? Uh, so a wonderful performance. My Beaver sweetie liked it a lot, and the sets and the costumes were just fantastic. They really made it look period, and like I said, the 2 leads were just perfect in that role, and the supporting cast was amazing too. So overall, I have been indulging in a lot of theater and coming back home very, very, very satisfied. So that was my glamorous weekend, kids and cubs. Cooking, taking in 2 shows, having 1 glass of wine, and otherwise staying in with very low energy and just watching the snow fall because it snowed pretty much all weekend outside my window. And oh, a little bit of shoveling. I did that. And if you did some shoveling, I hope that if there was a lot of snow where you are, that you took a lot of breaks and didn't overexert yourself. I have to start thinking about that because I'm a beaver of a certain age now. But the snow was light and fluffy, and the kids next door were trying to build forts on their front lawn, so they were very happy with me putting all the snow from our laneway onto their front lawn, so that that could help them in that pursuit. So, and I was happy to put all the snow on someone else's front lawn, so I don't have a big pile on mine, so that the next time it snows, I don't have to lift the snow that high. So it was a win-win for everyone. There you go. Ah, and we have Kitten Saucy, who's in the same club as me. I haven't read Pride and Prejudice yet either. I'm sorry. I know, right? But now that I've seen this one, there is a lot of wit there, and uh, some classic shade. in there in those lines. So I think it's something I might indulge in. Especially if I go get to take that winter vacation that we are hoping to plan. So far, we have found lodging. We're not doing very well on flights. But we think we might have found something. We're just asking about whether or not anybody else has used this airline. And this gives me a great segue into one of our topics today because one of the airlines we were looking at to travel was Air Transat. And turns out that that was not an option because it looks like kits and cubs. There will be some labor unrest at Air Transat. From what I've been able to garner from listening to the news, is that the union, it's the union for the pilots at Air Transit, um, have had the same contract for 10 years. So the last time they had a labor negotiation, they locked themselves in for 10 full years. And as you know, over the course of the last 10 years, there's been a lot of things that happened, right? We had pandemic and we had some runaway inflation for a while. And well, because they negotiated 10 years ago, they've fallen behind their peers in the industry over the last 5 years in particular, with all the inflation and stuff like that. And therefore, they want better salary and more job security, maybe some slightly better working conditions, that type of stuff. And they have been without a contract since April, I believe. And so they had voted on whether or not there could be strike action, and unanimously, the vote came in at about 99%. So I guess they had fallen rather behind on that old contract. And given that they had given the company 10 years of labor peace, you would think that the company would be eager to make a deal and reward them for that. But it seems perhaps not, although I haven't heard that the talks have been antagonistic, but more from the union that, the employer's not really getting on with it, and the employer being relatively surprised at uh, the stage being set for strike action, claiming that the need to do this at this particular time of year when everybody's getting ready for holidays is not necessary considering the state at which the talks are in. So that's sort of the overall overview. According to, but basically, they voted and they had a 72-hour notice, and that means that problems or disruptions would have been able to start as of Wednesday the 10th officially. Air Transat has decided to start canceling some flights early, according to the employer, to the organization, in order to be able to schedule a calm and orderly shutdown for people who have flights scheduled within the next 5 days. Air Transat is recommending people to call because they have sent out the notice for people to be rescheduled on flights, or for people that have flights over the next 5 days. That you can go a little earlier, maybe delay them a little bit somehow, but you are for them on a priority list to have action right away in order to be able to help you reschedule or get home if you are away. So if you happen to know anybody who's traveling currently, who's away and traveling with Air Transat or about to go soon, there are options for you, and the company is aware of them and trying to make that as easy as possible for you, given that they have had warning. But according to the Canadian press, Air Transit pilots set the stage for a strike as early as Wednesday morning, issuing a 72-hour notice to the struggling company on the cusp of the busy holiday travel season. The Airline Pilots Association said Sunday, if filed, the strike notice after failing to find common ground following nearly a year of negotiations with travel company Transat AT Incorporated, which owns the leisure airline. Quote, "We've been literally locked down here for a week and some progress has been made," said Bradley Small, who chairs the union's air transit contingent, in a phone interview from the bargaining venue in Montreal. Quote, "It's when we start hammering out the compensation side of it. That's where things have become very difficult. Unless significant progress is made at the bargaining table, we will strike if that's what it takes to achieve a modern contract," he added in a release. The carrier, which flies mainly to destinations in Europe and the Caribbean, will inform customers of canceled flights and the solutions put in place to assist them, Transat said. The nearly 40 active planes in Air Transat's fleet ferry tens of thousands of passengers on more than 500 flights each week, according to figures from aviation data platforms Cirium and or Chaviation, I guess. Both sides accuse the other of failing to pull its weight in the bargaining process. Quote, "They've been less than present," Small, who speaks for some 750 pilots, told the Canadian press. Transat Human Resource Chief Julie Lamontagne said the union has shown, quote, "no openness," while also pointing to, quote, "progress made at the bargaining table. It is regrettable that the union has expressed such indifference towards Transat, its employees, and clients by choosing the path of a strike at this time of year, a reckless decision that does not reflect the state of the negotiations," she said in a release. The labor standoff comes at a particularly fraught time for the Montreal-based company as it struggles to manage a large debt load and annual profit for the first and the sorry, as it struggles to manage a large debt load and turn an annual profit for the first time since 2018. Quote, "It's never good timing, but especially at this time of year. We're leaning into the holiday season," said Transat spokeswoman Andrienne Gagné in a phone interview. John Graddock, who teaches aviation management, at McGill University, stressed the high cost of a potential strike near the height of Christmas travel. Quote, "This is the peak of the peak. The planes are full and the fares are very high," he said. At the same time, the board of directors is trying to fend off an attempted coup by Oh, okay. At the same time, the board of directors is trying to fend off an attempted coup by media mogul Pierre Carl Pelado. Last week, the head of the telecommunications giant Quebecor Incorporated, who also owns 9.5% of Transat, its second biggest shareholder, demanded a board shakeup and strategic overhaul. The proposal would see the billionaire's right-hand man at Quebecor replace Transat chairwoman Susan Kudzman, with Pelado also gaining a seat at the table. On Sunday, Pelado seized on the strike notice to press his case, criticizing the board, quote, "for a deplorable situation," and making an unsolicited offer to mediate between workers and management. Quote, "The board of directors is once again demonstrating its inability to manage fragile financial resources while extraordinary sums are being paid out on professional and consulting fees of all kinds," he said in a release from his investment firm Financière Outremont Incorporated. Transat said it had offered pilots a 59% salary hike over 5 years and major improvements in working conditions. The union's Bradley Small called that figure, quote, "very inaccurate and a product of, quote, creative accounting." The pilots say they want a new collective agreement, which would replace the one from 2015 to improve compensation, job security, working conditions, and quality of life. In its latest annual report last year, Transat noted that the aviation industry is facing pressure from airline pilot unions amid an ongoing labor shortage. Quote, "The corporation will have to offer working conditions that are competitive with agreements recently concluded in the industry, or many pilots may join competitors," the document stated. Small said that since post COVID, Air Transit has lost more than 180 aviators, or 1 in 4, many to other airlines with more lucrative contracts. Last year, Air Canada's 5,400 pilots negotiated a cumulative wage hike of nearly 42% over 4 years. The increase outstripped major gains won the year before by pilots at the three biggest U.S. airlines, where pay bumps ranged between 34 and 40%, albeit started from a higher baseline. In 2023, WestJet pilots notched 24% pay bump over 4 years after in a deal that was reached hours ahead of the strike deadline. Last week, the pilots voted 99% in favor of a strike if necessary, with ballots cast by 98% of eligible pilots. A 21-day cooling off period that followed conciliation talks ends on December 10th, when the workers can strike or management can impose a lockout. And there you go, kids and cubs. That's what's going on with Air Transat, and of course, affecting our ability to find flights for our vacation. But we have, like I said, we have found one. But my Beaver sweetie had to contact his employer for the schedule for next term, because uh, there will be two assistants, and they will be switching off depending on weeks, just to try to make sure that he's got that last week clear. Because if that's the case, then we have some flexibility on our return dates, and that makes the flight that we found more possible. for both of us. If not, we might have to might consider leaving, going together, but leaving at different times. And I would rather travel back with my beaver sweetie if I could. So we're going to see about that. But yeah, if we can make it happen, yours truly will have j- about 3 weeks vacation for the first time in 6 years, uh, and much needed vacation, I have to say. I'm due. So yeah, that's what's going on with Air Transat, and of course, the people from Air Transat wanting a contract that is similar to what their colleagues from Air Canada have recently received, in order to, like I say, to modernize the contract and to keep it in line with industry standards. All right. Kits and Cubs, more data and information that could help you along the way. We didn't talk about it much last week, and we didn't talk about when it happened, but we didn't talk about it coming either. But there was jobs data, and there was a Bank of Canada rate decision as well late last week. And I would expect that the Bank of Canada um, was holding. Uh, oh, sorry. My mistake. The Bank of Canada rate decision has not come out yet. It comes out on Wednesday, the 10th. I thought it had come out for some reason at the same day as the jobs data, but it didn't. Okay, so that's good to know. There will be a Bank of Canada rate decision on Wednesday, about 9:45 Eastern time. The lockup will start at 8 a.m. For the journalists that are there. Um, I'm hoping. I'm gonna see if I can get on the list actually, uh, for media relations, to ask a question, because I do have a question, and maybe I can get myself on the list for that press conference in order to be able to ask it. Um, so there you go. I will see what I can do for that. That would be a first for us. Actually, we've never tried to do that. So, but I have had a question in mind that nobody has been asking. So yes, on the 10th, we will have a Bank of Canada interest rate decision. It would appear, from what I can tell, that uh, the Bank of Canada is probably going to hold pat on the here, while the U.S. Fed, there's anticipation that the Fed will cut. There's even some talk about for the Bank of Canada that this might uh, be the lowest that it gets, and that future rate decisions from the Bank of Canada might actually uh, be towards rate increases, which is actually interesting. That would be a complete change. But this is according to wealth professional Steve Randall, wealthprofessional.ca. With markets pricing in a Fed rate cut, that's in the United States, at its FOMC meeting on Wednesday, and convincingly too at around 92%, the trajectory for Canadian interest rates is less certain. While it's unlikely that the Bank of Canada will make any changes when it meets this week, big bank economists have been opining on potential divergence between policymakers north and south of the border as respective economies differ. While the Fed cut is not definitive, while the Fed cut is not definite, given that U.S. inflation remains hotter than it should be, a third consecutive cut is widely expected. But RBC Economics' Nathan Jansen and Claire Fan say that the BOC's decision will reflect last week's job stats, better than expected GDP data, and no real change in household debt service ratio, while financial assets and net wealth have gained. As you remember, uh, we recently reported on the GDP data that came in at a 2.6% increase for the third quarter, which was not expected, and which made it so that we avoided a technical recession, because in the quarter before, we had an announced 1.6% decline, which was revised downward to 1.8 in the most recent data. But a technical recession is 2 consecutive quarters of economic decline, and we did not, or economic contraction, and we have not experienced that. So we are not on the path to recession, and 2.6 is relatively healthy growth. Um, so, Pierre Poilievre has been clamoring about the weakest economic growth in the G7. And unfortunately, because the numbers are so volatile, it's hard to look at them from quarter to quarter, right? I mean, we went from a slightly positive one to a pretty negative one at minus 1.8 to like an unexpectedly high one at 2.6 in the last 3 quarters. So there's a lot of um, uh, some wild swings from quarter to quarter, depending on what's going on in global trade, and where things get stalled or stopped or started again, when people are pre-buying and or not, that and those types of things. So, but rather very positive number, and for the GDP for Canada in the third quarter. Of course, a lot of that had to do with defense spending, and then of course we had some good inflation data as well too. So this is it's numbers that are much better than the Bank of Canada had forecast. Um, so according to this, they all say that this suggests that the Bank of Canada will opt for a hold on Wednesday, and conditions will not point to any cuts in 2026 if these conditions maintained itself. I mean, if we maintained 2%, 2.6% growth all throughout next year, there would definitely be no need for a rate cut. And if employment situation improves, certainly would be no need for that as well. There was also no real change in household debt service ratio, while financial assets and net wealth had gained. So all of these are good signs for Canada over the course of that quarter. Andrew Hedchich at TD Economics highlights the positives in the most recent labor report, but notes that there's still slack in this regard. While trade remains tainted by tariffs, the bank also expects a rate hold by the Bank of Canada this week. But what about the chance that rates will be hiked next year? CIBC's Andrew Grantham is among those leaning in to talk of rate hikes by the Bank of Canada in 2026, while noting that the labor market may not be quite as good as the headline stats suggest, given the concentration of jobs and a decline in the participation, which made unemployment appear less of an issue. He does not expect any further rate cuts, but is dovish on rate hikes, which he does not believe will be appropriate for the economic conditions until the end of next year. Any hike is also seen as coming in late in 2026 by BMO's Doug Porter. However, Scotiabank's Derek Holt believes that rates could be increased sooner. In his reaction to the jobs report, he wrote, quote, "I'm starting to think of an earlier hike than next year. Ripping jobs less slack than previously estimated due to GDP revisions. Wage settlements are still going strong in a very different job market that's stateside, with so many unionized workers striking 4 to 5 year contracts with makeup pay gains well above 2% inflation." So yes, that is indeed true. And trying to take another look at it from our friends at the Globe and Mail and see if they've got some additional analysis for us here. This would be Mark Rendell of the Globe and Mail. Let's see what else, if there's any additional news here. The Bank of Canada is expected to end the year back on the sidelines, likely holding interest rates steady on Wednesday after a string of surprisingly sturdy economic reports. The central bank cut its benchmark policy rate to 2.25% in October, but indicated that this would likely be the last cut in an easing cycle that began a year and a half earlier. Since then, inflation, economic growth, and employment data have all surprised to the upside, suggesting the Canadian economy has weathered U.S. tariffs better than expected in recent months. After 4 rate cuts this year and 9 since the summer of 2024, markets now believe the central bank will remain on hold through most of next year, with the next move likely to be a rate hike than a cut, according to Bloomberg data. The story is different south of the border, where the U.S. Federal Reserve will announce its latest rate decision on Wednesday afternoon. Having cut fewer times than the Bank of Canada, the Fed's monetary policy stance remains restrictive even as the U.S. labor market has weakened. Investors are betting the U.S. central bank will cut by another quarter point this week, taking the federal funds target range to 3.5% from 3.5%, taking the rate to 3.5% from 3.75%. There was a typo in the article. Quote, our base case forecast a month ago did not assume a December cut from the Fed, given inflation in the U.S. remains above the central bank's 2% target, and Chair Jerome Powell's comments at the last meeting about cautiously proceeding in a foggy environment. Royal Bank of Canada economists Nathan Jansen and Claire Fan wrote in a note to clients, referring to the U.S. government shutdown, which limited the release of economic data. But it was always going to be a close call, Mr. Jansen and Ms. Fan wrote, and recent communication from Fed committee members suggest a cut is coming. Quote, with some softer data during the blackout, we doubt the Hawks will put up a major fight. Looking further ahead, the trajectory for U.S. monetary policy is complicated by questions around who will succeed Mr. Powell as Fed chair when his term ends next spring. The leading candidate is widely believed to be Kevin Hassett, a close ally of U.S. President Donald Trump and director of the National Economic Council. He is seen by many analysts as a dovish choice who would pursue Mr. Trump's desire for lower interest rates. The situation in Canada, by comparison, appears relatively clear-cut. After the October rate decision, Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem said he thought interest rates were, quote, at about the right level to keep inflation close to 2%, while helping the economy through this period of structural adjustment. And speaking about the U.S., however, and Mr. Trump's desire for lower interest rates, there is only so much you can cut interest rates, and the United States is at would be at 3.5 if there was another cut there, and 2 to 3, about 3% is considered a neutral interest rate. When you go below that, you start cutting in to your reserves in case something happens. So you reserve your room for maneuvering in case something like a recession or a war or a pandemic or something like this out of the blue comes and hits. I don't think I'm getting the impression that Mr. Trump has not yet realized that there's only so much you can cut interest rates before you create a whole new set of problems for yourself. But of course, he's not particularly known for long-term thinking when it comes to matters economic. All right. Tiff Macklem, the governor of the Bank of Canada, did not rule out further cuts if the Canadian economy takes a nosedive, but he said there would have to be, quote, a material change in the bank's economic outlook to warrant additional easing. That hold steady stance seems to be supported by recent data. Annual consumer price index inflation clocked in at 2.2% in October, while measures of core inflation remain around 3%. The latest job numbers published Friday suggest the labor market remains weak, but is trending in a positive direction. Meanwhile, gross domestic product growth rebounded in the third quarter after a contraction in the second. Much of the 2.6% annualized GDP growth was a statistical quirk caused by falling imports, but the number was still notably stronger than Bay Street and central bank forecasts and means the country avoided 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth, which analysts sometimes call a technical recession. There was also a major upward revision to past GDP growth numbers from 2022, 2023, and 2024, suggesting the Canadian economy was on a stronger footing than previously appreciated heading into the current period of trade tensions. Oh, see, now that's new data that I had not come across yet. And that means that pretty much everything that Pierre had been saying for the past, since becoming leader, wasn't as bad as Pierre was claiming it was. I wish the major upward revision in past GDP growth numbers from 2022, 2023, and 2024 had received much more press, or at least I wish they would have put in this article how much upward they were revised by if they're saying major upward revision, because it would be good to know that. Quote, it makes one wonder if the Bank of Canada would have eased policy as much as it did if it had known how solid momentum was. The firmer economic backdrop could also help explain why core CPI has been stickier than expected, Benjamin Wrightsey, head of Canadian rate strategy at Bank of Montreal, wrote in a note to clients. There are still plenty of risks on the horizon, including the review of the United States-Mexico-Canada Free Trade Agreement next year, which could bring more trade turmoil. But Bank of Canada officials have repeatedly argued that monetary policy is not the right instrument to respond to trade disruptions. Quote, monetary policy can't target the hard-hit sectors, aluminium, steel, and autos. It can't help companies find new markets. It can't help companies reconfigure their supply chains, Mr. Macklem said in October. What it can do is it can try to mitigate the spillovers from the hard-hit sectors to the rest of the economy, and it can try to help the economy adjust to this structural change. I remember him saying those things quite clearly. They had stuck in my mind when he had said them. because there is indeed a role for Bank of Canada monetary policy, but it is not a silver bullet that can fix everything. So I'm looking here if I can find more data for you, kids and cubs, on just how big or how major those revisions upwards were. From what I can see here, okay, November 28, 2025, source Statistics Canada. The mean absolute percentage point revision to the annual average growth rate of real GDP for the 2022 to 2024 period was 0.48 percentage points. The revisions were relatively stable across the years, ranging from plus 0.42 percentage points in 2023 to plus 51 percentage points in 2022. So basically, if I am reading this, it would seem that for the 3-year period total, um, that growth was about half a percentage point higher than what we had thought it was. I'm just going to take a look here I'm looking at some more technical data here. Revisions to the 2022-2024 GDP estimates by IEA stem from a number of sources, notably the following: the incorporation of the 2022 supply and use tables, updated data sources for 2023 and 2024, the integration of new data sources or methods for some expenditure components, and the incorporation of data compiled post-adoption of IFRS 17 by insurers, and I have no idea what IFRS 17 would be. That is way above my pay grade here. Um, but yeah, so IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standards. There we go. Thank you so much for putting that in the document. So yes, uh, for 2022 to 2024, percentage points 0.41% total. In 2022, 0.52 higher. In 2023, 0.62 higher. In 2024, 0.11 higher. So not half a percentage, but 0.4 of a percentage here overall for the period. But like I said, in 2022 and 2023, when Pierre was doing a lot of his screaming, we were doing way better than he was claiming. Of course, nobody knew that at the time, but we were doing better. In 2022, the upward revision to household final consumption expenditure and business capital investments were partially offset by downward revisions to inventories. For 2023, similar to 2022, upward revisions to household financial consumption expenditure, business capital investment were partially offset by downward revisions to inventories. Both exports and imports were revised up, with little impact on the nominal GDP revision. And in 2024, there was a large upward revision in household final consumption expenditure, and business capital investment outpaced downward revisions to inventories. So there you go. Better performance in the 2022, 2023, and 2024. There's a little bit of a graph here that is included. So I will show it to you so you can have a visual representation. As we can see here, 2022, this was the estimate, and this is where we ended up. 2023, same thing, and 2024, same thing here. Yes, we were healthier than we thought we were going into these pressures put upon us by Donald Trump. And maybe that explains a little bit why we've been able to be a little more resilient. All right, since we are talking about this type of data, let's talk about the jobs data that was referred to in the article, because it had the news came out on Friday, but just after we had finished our show. According to Jenna Benchetrit on CBC News, Canada's unemployment rate dropped to 6.5% in November, Statistics Canada said on Friday, bringing the rate to a 16-month low and making a year-end interest rate cut an unlikely occurrence, according to economists. The jobless rate fell several points from October's 6.9% after trending upwards for most of the year, even hitting 7.1% in September, a high not seen since May 2016, excluding the COVID-19 pandemic early years. The unemployment rate, just to be clear, is down 0.6% over the course of the last 2 months and down 0.4% from the previous month, according to the most recent data. Quote, the last time we saw a 6-tick drop in the unemployment rate in a 2-month span, aside from the wildness around COVID, was during the last tech boom in 1999, wrote Douglas Porter, chief economist at BMO, in a note to clients. Quote, a significant cool down in population growth and thus the labor force is a major factor behind the reduced pressure on the jobless rate, he added, with the number of people participating in the labor force having ticked down in November. Meanwhile, the economy also gained an unexpected 54,000 jobs last month, marking the third monthly increase in a row, though most were part-time. That's an important caveat. The majority of growth came from the private sector, and the overall increase was largely driven by employment gains among young people between the ages of 15 to 24, which is very good because the rate at which it was in September, uh, we were being told, was rates that were on par with a recession. And so to see that drop, it's very important. So that group was burdened by a difficult job market through most of 2025, struggling with a stubbornly high unemployment rate that has now edged down to 12.8%. And I believe the previous month it was at 14.1. So this is a 1.3% drop in youth unemployment in the space of 1 month. It's a very big achievement. Quote, the jobless rate of Canadians under 25 is still elevated compared to other groups, but this was a positive development, noted Brendan Bernard, senior economist at Indeed Canada. And here again, we have another graph for you. This is the overall employment rate, not the youth one, but so that you can see for yourself what it looks like here. So we had a low unemployment of 5% in March of 2023, and since then it has been climbing steadily, reached 7% in September 2025, also in August 2025, and then dropping sharply to 6.5%, which is about as low as we've seen since July 2024. So this is good news for us. The growth was driven by several sectors, including healthcare and social assistance, accommodation and food services, and natural resources, but jobs were lost in wholesale and retail trade, offsetting an industry increase seen the previous month. Alberta drew the most gains, adding 29,000 jobs last month, with New Brunswick and Manitoba adding several thousand each. Employment was unchanged in the other provinces. On a yearly basis, average hourly wages grew 3.6%, or $1.27 to $37 an hour. This is also very important because that is an indication that hourly wages, again, this month, like the month previously, are growing faster than core inflation. And that's been the case for several months, but are also growing faster than food and shelter inflation, which is very, very key, especially for those when we're talking about the K-shaped economy and those on the lower level of the K, the lower bar, that are getting hit very, very, very hard because they are most likely renters, not homeowners, most likely do not own stocks that have been growing rather impressively during all of this happening, and being affected by higher than core at the time shelter and food inflation. Shelter inflation has since gone below core, but food has not. And recent reports are indicating that food inflation is not likely to cease over the course of the next year. Um, so that we have a situation here, and the Conservatives are complaining. The Conservatives want you to focus on the fact that 9,000 full-time jobs have been lost and not 54,000 jobs have been created, even though most of them are part-time. They don't want you to focus on a 0.4% drop in the overall employment rate. They do not want you to focus on a 1.3% drop in the youth employment rate. They do not want you to focus on wages growing faster than core inflation, food inflation, and shelter inflation. All of these things are good. They just want you to focus on 9,000 full-time jobs lost, which, of course, is not ideal. But when you have a job report that indicates that 9,000 full-time jobs have lost, but that the unemployment rate still drops 0.4%, and the unemployment rate has been the highest it has been in a while, this is good news. But Conservatives, of course, are unable of being happy and celebrating anything positive that happens to Canada. So there you have them. According to Douglas Porter of BMO, Quote, this solid jobs report follows a series of better than expected results on the Canadian economy in recent weeks, including the upside surprise on Q3 GDP and the earlier robust job gains. Coupled with inflation that has been running a tad hot of late, this quashes any lingering prospect of a near term Bank of Canada rate cut. About those jobs, the job gains that we have had over the last 3 months are more than enough to compensate for the jobs we lost over the course of the summer. I haven't been able to go in to do a one-on-one analysis about full-time versus part-time jobs, whether or not it's literally a one for one equivalent, or whether or not it's one for one better. Uh, but in terms of total number of jobs, whether part-time and full-time, the numbers from the last 3 months basically uh, neutralize what we had lost over the course of the summer. RBC Assistant Chief Economist Nathan Jansen echoed that assessment with recent GDP, labor market, and inflation data, making it unlikely that the Bank of Canada will cut anytime soon. Quote, the November labor market data likely cements that decision and also is consistent with our base case. The Bank of Canada will not need to reduce interest rates again through next year. The Bank of Canada's next interest rate announcement is on Wednesday. So there we go. Some very positive news with regard to all of that. Uh, One thing I wanted, because I had mentioned it here when I was talking about food prices. Um, this here, I think, of course, this is, of course, to the London Free Press here. Ryan Goodison noting here. Um, Hold on, let me just check here, make sure I've got the right thing. I do have the right thing. Um, okay. Statistics Canada has a basket total that illustrates how much a person would spend if they bought each of the more than 100 items listed on it. That includes typical purchases such as meats, vegetables, milk, and baked goods. In a just released update on its total cost, the national agency says it works out to $664.09, up from $630.49 a year prior. That covers the 12-month period that ended in October, and it works out to an average price jump of 5% on food items. The increases were led by products like beef and coffee. Over the last year, the price of beef products rose 16.8%, with beef strip loin cuts seeing the largest increase at around 25%. And real dollars, strip loin cuts jumped to an average of $31.66 from an average of $25.24 over the course of the year. It was driven by low supply, Statistics Canada spokesperson said. One of the things that you must know is that the beef thing, well, Pierre wants you to believe it's all the fault of Mark Carney or Justin Trudeau. What has happened with beef is that because of drought, there has been lack of pasture for grazing, and therefore many farmers have had to cull or make the size of their herds much smaller in whatever way was necessary to do that. Uh, that has happened, and of course, it takes a while uh, to grow your herd back when demand increases. It doesn't take long to cull a herd, but takes a long time to grow a herd back. So that's what's happening. We have a shortage. And of course, across the world, as more people are reaching the middle class and more people are asking for higher protein diets, then you have higher demand and a restricted supply, which also increases the price. Coffee products rose 26%. Specifically, the cost of 340 grams of ground coffee jumped by about 38%, up from $9.30 from $6.72. Unfavorable weather conditions in areas that grow primary ingredients were to blame, the Stats Can official said. So again, where Pierre wants you to believe that your rising coffee prices is all the fault of Mark Carney or Justin Trudeau, it's the fact that there have been terrible weather conditions in areas where coffee is grown. Canada's food price report, authored by the Agri-Food Analytics Lab, made up of several Canadian university researchers, was released on Thursday, and it's calling for another large jump in food prices in 2026. A typical family of four is projected to spend about $17,572 on food next year, potentially as much as $995 more than in 2025. Food prices are estimated to go up between 4 to 6% next year over the next 12 months, the report states. The following are considered key factors in the expected increase of food prices next year, the report authors note: trade disputes with the United States, shifts in the food manufacturing and retail landscape, labor markets, policy changes, the Canadian dollar outlook, and more. Whew. Statistics Canada said the most costly items this year were meat products, edible oils, and infant formula. Yeah, there's been a lot of stories in the news about people not being able to afford formula. The rising cost of infant formula, now at $48.86 per 900 grams, is something Wayne Dunn, founder of the Business Cares Food Drive, has noticed during this year's campaign. Quote, we're finding that we're still getting lots of products, but not the more expensive stuff, Dunn said. Statistics Canada wrote that prices paid by consumers in Ontario are on the lower end compared to other provinces, but that doesn't mean local charities haven't noticed a difference this year. Glenn Pearson, co-director of the London Food Bank, says the organization has leveled off, serving around 40,000 individual people a year, but what's changed is the number of recurring individuals accessing the food bank. They're having to come to the food bank as part of their budget because they can no longer afford food, Pearson said. Pearson explained that to the agency's shock, their Thanksgiving food drive's total collection was up 4% from last year, which they expected to be down. What I wonder is how long can that go on? Because donors are facing all of these same problems. They're going to the same stores, they're paying the same rents, and they're starting to get squeezed more and more. But Canadians are very generous and kind people. And therefore, we know that there's more need, so therefore we give more. It's just how we are. Dunn also mentioned that during the Business Cares Food Drive opening grocery weekend, which was last Saturday and Sunday, they met their goal, but only due to the addition of more participating stores. Quote, we met our goal, but only because we had an extra 5 stores this past year. Other than that, we would have been down 10%. So that tells you something. Yeah, it tells us that each group is able to contribute less, but when there is greater need, more people step up to contribute. So again, uh, that's a wonderful thing about us as Canadians. But again, there's only so long you can do that, right? Put your own mask on before helping others. So, right, uh, it's good that Canadians are behaving like Canadians in this case. But like I said, you can't always ask who who have just enough or just slightly more than enough to be doing the heavy lifting when there are still those who have way more than they need who are not participating. All right. There you go, kits and cubs. Oh, darn. Sharing the screen. I just noticed that the screen has been sharing the entire time, and it has not been me. I am sorry, kits and cubs. That has not been a great visual for you guys. I do not know exactly when that happened, but I am so sorry for that. It must have been when I showed the last graph from the employment rate. And I'm just going to make sure that the video is okay because I seem to be a little fuzzy here when I came back from that. There you go. That's a little better. Apologies, kits and cubs, for having kept the screen in the screen text on during that entire last little bit. That was my mistake on the production side. I did not that before I started reading. All right. Let's see what else do we have, kits and cubs, for you. I think that is most of the economic stuff. So again, GDP numbers coming in great. Upward revisions for the last 3 years. Jobs data coming in much better than expected. Yes, a loss of full-time jobs. We do have to maintain that because it's important to keep in mind. But it's the loss of 9,400 full-time jobs with a gain of over 50,000 jobs, a lot of them part-time, and increased employment within the youth sector, which is really, really needed. There was also other data indicating that for those who have lost work and that are looking for work, they are able to find work a whole lot more rapidly than they have been able to in the past. Just looking for this data for you, kits and cubs, that I had noted. Um, with regard to job searches and how long it's taking. But they did a year-over-year comparison of how it was, and things are definitely much better now. I'm just going to go take a look in some notes because I think this and my personal show notes. Let's see, do I have it here? No, I do not, unfortunately, sadly. But yes, it would seem that people who are looking for work find work much more quickly this year than was the case last year. So that helps a lot as well. Okay, let's see what else do we have here. Kits and Cubs for you today. Just looking at my show notes here. Uh, all right, yes. Um, I do not know that much about this yet because I have not gone in and read it myself. So what I have here for you is uh, my best um, recap of what I've heard from sources that I do trust a lot. And therefore, this is like I said, a collection of their takes, uh, but not necessarily mine because I haven't had a chance to see it myself. Um, but it would appear that the United States launched uh, a national security strategy and did make it public. And how would I put it? The United States, the way it's been described from what I've been put down on paper, what it truly does believe of other nations, including um, allies, uh, and how it sees the world. And they said uh, the quiet parts out loud. And it seems they are relatively proud of it as well, which is, well, I guess not weird. I mean, let's put it this way: it's weird um, if you are uh, living in regular normal times. If you remember normal times, it is weird because why would you do that? Considering this particular administration and how brash and bold it is, and how it likes to move fast and break things, and keep on saying how great and wonderful and fantastic it is, despite all evidence. And I really focus on the word "all" there. To the contrary. Um, this seems to be a really stupid move. The initial impression from everyone, just like the alleged 28-point peace plan that the United States came up and swore that they had written for, um, and then was, upon reading it, everybody said, "This looks like a Russia wish list. Are you sure that you wrote this in the United States, or did you just like take copy and paste a document that Russia sent you and just put the United States seal or letterhead on the top of it?" Uh, this too policy seems to align uh, with Russia's vision, and this is not um, me saying it. This is Moscow saying it, according to the BBC's Rachel Muller-Hendick. Russia has welcomed U.S. President Donald Trump's new national security strategy, calling it, quote, largely consistent with Moscow's vision. The 33-page document unveiled by the U.S. administration this week suggests Europe is facing, quote, civilization erasure and does not cast Russia as a threat to the U.S. Combating foreign influence, ending mass migration, and rejecting the EU's perceived practice of censorship are mentioned as other priorities in the report. Several EU officials and analysts had pushed back on the strategy, questioning its focus on freedom of expression and likening it to language used by the Kremlin. Quote, the adjustments we're seeing are largely consistent with our vision, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said in an interview published by Russia's state news agency TASS on Sunday. Quote, we consider this a positive step, he said, adding that Moscow would continue to analyze the document before drawing strong conclusions. The strategy adopts a softer language towards Russia, which EU officials worry could weaken its stance towards Moscow as it pushes for an end to the war in Ukraine. In the document, the EU is blamed for blocking U.S. efforts to end the conflict and says the U.S. must, quote, reestablish strategic stability to Russia, which would stabilize European economies. It appears to endorse efforts to influence policy on the continent, noting that U.S. policy should prioritize, quote, resistance to Europe's current trajectory within European nations. The new report also calls for the restoration, quote, of Western identity and claims that Europe will be, quote, unrecognizable in 20 years or less, and its economic issues are, quote, eclipsed by the real and more stark prospect of civilizational erasure. Quote, it is far from obvious whether certain European countries will have economies and military strong enough to remain reliable allies, the document states. And that provokes quite a laugh from everybody around the world. We're talking about reliable allies. In stark contrast, the document celebrates the influence of, quote, patriotic European parties and says America encourages its political allies in Europe to promote this revival of spirit. Oh, how interesting how America is writing this document and encouraging a whole bunch of other nations for doing this, almost like the United States was trying to interfere in their political affairs. But we know that the United States would never do that, given how upset they got at a television ad from Doug Ford playing on their airwaves. Mm, yeah, yeah. Uh, America encourages its political allies in Europe to promote the revival of spirit. And Canadians laughed. And the Europeans laughed in European, surely. Quote, the U.S. will remain our most important ally in the NATO alliance. This alliance, however, is focused on addressing security policy issues, German Foreign Minister Johann Wadepool said on Friday. I believe questions of freedom of expression or the organization of our free societies do not belong in the strategy, in any case, at least when it comes to Germany. That's Germany telling the United States and Donald Trump to fick off. In a social media post addressed to his American friends, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk said that Europe is your closest ally, not your problem, and noted their common enemies. This is the only reasonable strategy of our common security unless something has changed. Again, Poland not saying go fick yourself, but what the fuck? And who are you? What is this crap? Meanwhile, former Swedish Prime Minister Carl Bildt wrote that the document, quote, places itself to the right of the extreme right. Okay. The Trump administration has fostered links with the far-right AfD party in Germany, which has been classified as an extreme right by German intelligence. Promoting an America First message, the strategy says the U.S. intends to target alleged drug trafficking boats in the Caribbean Sea and the Eastern Pacific Ocean, considering possible military action in Venezuela. Again, probably not something I would recommend, considering that from the United States we're getting information that, Pete Kegstand may have committed a war crime, which which he's justifying and standing by saying, this admiral over here made the decision that I really, really, really stand by, but every decision on this was made by him. Him. Hmm. Yes, I'm sure the admiral is loving that support. I support every bad decision he made, but they're his bad decisions. Of course, Hegseth is not calling them bad decisions. The U.S. also calls on an increased defense spending from Japan, South Korea, Australia, and Taiwan. Democrats in Congress warned that the document could shatter U.S. foreign relations. Representative Jason Crow of Colorado, who sits on the House committees overseeing intelligence and the armed forces, called the strategy catastrophic to America's standing in the world. New York Representative Gregory Meeks said it discards decades of values-based U.S. leadership. Follow the twists and turns. Oh, sorry, is that the end of it? I guess that's the end of the article. It just ends abruptly like that. Okay. So there you go. Basically, from what I've been hearing, is that the report, U.S. security strategy, treats all of the U.S.'s allies, if they still have any, but traditional allies, pretty much as vassal states, and we exist for the sole purpose and only, right, sole purpose of helping America retain its number one position in the world, as it repeatedly punches itself in the dick to try to dislodge itself from it. So apparently, yes, we are there to serve the United States, and when the United States doesn't like something that anybody else is doing, to join them in their fight to punish them, but we get nothing, and we should expect nothing, and we should be happy just to be in the orbit of the United States and get some of the reflection of the sunshine that comes from that shining city on a hill, and bask in that, but nothing more. It's a very unidirectional relationship. We are there to serve them and serve their interests and to be used by them the way that they want to in order so that they can remain number one. But that's where the relationship ends. You can imagine that a lot of people are not really down with that. According to the CBC, according to Thomson Reuters, as published in the CBC, such fulsome public agreement between Moscow and Washington in global politics is rare, though they did cooperate closely after the 1991 fall of the Soviet Union on returning nuclear weapons from former Soviet republics to Russia, and after the deadly September 11, 2001 attacks on the United States. During the Cold War, Moscow portrayed the United States as a decadent capitalist empire doomed by the historical certainties of Marxism, while US President Ronald Reagan in 1983 called the Soviet Union, quote, an evil empire and the focus of all evil in the modern world. After the Soviet collapse, Moscow expressed hopes for partnership with the West, but as Washington moved to support the enlargement of the NATO alliance, as outlined in President Bill Clinton's 1994 strategy, tensions began to mount. They were pushed to breaking point under Russian President Vladimir Putin, who rose to the top Kremlin job on the last day of 1999. And the world has been very, very, very worse off for it ever since. Asked about the pledge in the U.S. document to end quote, the perception and preventing the reality of the NATO military alliance as a perpetually expanding alliance, the Kremlin's Peskov said it was encouraging. But Dmitry Peskov, and that is, as we mentioned previously, the spokesperson for the Kremlin. But Peskov also cautioned that what he said was the U.S., quote, deep state saw the world differently to Trump, who has used the term to refer to an allegedly entrenched network of U.S. officials who seek to undermine those who challenge the status quo, including Trump himself. Critics of Trump say there's no such thing as a deep state and that Trump and his allies are trafficking in a conspiracy theory to justify an executive branch power grab. Since Russia's 2014 annexation of Crimea and its 2022 invasion of Ukraine, U.S. strategies have designated Moscow as an aggressor. U.S. strategies have designated Moscow as an aggressor or a threat that was trying to destabilize the post-Cold War order by force. In comments to the state-run TASS news agency, Peskov said calling for cooperation with Moscow on strategic stability issues rather than describing Russia as a direct threat was a positive step. The Trump strategy describes what it calls the Indo-Pacific as one of the, quote, key economic and geopolitical battlegrounds, saying it would build up U.S. and allied military power to prevent a conflict with China over Taiwan. Russia pivoted to Asia and China in particular after the West imposed sanctions on Russia for the war in Ukraine, and Europe sought to wean itself off Russian oil and gas. Trump in March told Fox News that, quote, as a student of history, which I am, and I've watched it all. Yeah, uh, whatever you choose to consume on the History Channel does not make you a student of history, sir. And that's if you stay awake for the show, if you even watch the History Channel. The first thing you learn is you don't want Russia and China to get together. Oh, dude, have you not paid attention? That's already been happening. Russia is now a complete vassal state of China. In case you haven't noticed, they're talking about a gas pipeline deal between them two. Have you not noticed that, Mr. Trump? Really weird. Okay. Yeah. A lot of people not impressed with this document. And like I said, particularly in Canada, these news passages that I read to you here do not contain the deep alarm and concern that I've heard from, like I said, the various other media I've been consuming over the course of the weekend with regard to um, uh, how insulting and demeaning their view of the United States and their allies actually is. And I don't believe that their national strategy document took into account that their allies are a little more irritated with them than they used to be, and maybe a whole lot less likely to sign on to that or to see the world in the same way. I'm sure that Canada, um, right now in 2025, sees itself as much less obligated and willing and enthusiastic about doing something like, for example, imposing 100% tariffs on EVs from China in order to help the US auto sector than it was at the time we actually imposed them. Because at the time we imposed them, the United States hadn't declared that their objective was to destroy our auto sector. Had we been asked to do that today, we might be seriously less inclined to be willing to help. And I don't think that national security strategy has taken that reality into account. And given the reactions from the Germans and the Polish, as stated in that BBC article, I have a feeling that they too are very close to, if not saying it in words, either directly or in euphemism, showing it in their actions. Yeah, Donald, you keep on spewing whatever you're spewing for your end, and we're just going to do us here at our end. And you will have to cope because it's no longer you tell us and we do. We That worked for us while it was working for us. But given that you've got serve no purpose for you other than keeping you first, um, we might be focusing a little more inward over the next while because there's not much in this relationship for us. Hey, let the U.S. do what it is going to do. Um, we'll see how that works out for them. I have a feeling that's not a strategy that is going to survive for a long time. Not that the Americans will admit that it has failed when it does, but yeah, this does not look like a strategy that can survive over the long term. And I noticed that for some reason I've gone fuzzy again, so I will try to fix that. I'm not sure what's going on today, kits and cubs, with that, but here we go. No, still not better. Don't know what's going on. Except we've been having some technical difficulties here at Beaver Lodge today. All right, let's see if there we go. That's much better. Okay. Kits and cups. Let's see what else do we have next for you. Oh yes. Maybe a little bit of news from the manufacturing sectors here. Let's see what we've got here. We have the employment data, the labor data they gave, their Transat stuff. Oh, yes, there we go. In the auto sector, I believe it is. Yes. Uh, there has been some interesting news, kits and cubs, with regard to the auto sector. Um, as we know, the United States does not want us to have an auto sector anymore. And this is older news. It's from July 2025, but I assume that it marked the beginning of a trend that is going to continue for the next little while. But this is according to Matt St. Pierre from MotorIllustrated.com. And like I said, this is way back in July. But it says here, U.S. built vehicles. Sorry, let's try this again. The share of U.S. made vehicles sold in Canada declined in the second quarter of 2025 as trade tariffs imposed by Ottawa began to reshape the automotive import landscape. Vehicles assembled in the United States accounted for 39% of Canadian vehicle sales by volume from April to June, according to Desrosiers Automotive Consultants. That figure was down from 41% in the first quarter as retaliatory tariffs disrupted the cross-border flow of vehicles. And I would be very anxious to see Q3 data on this to see if this has continued. On April 9th, the federal government introduced a 25% tariff on U.S. built vehicles following a broader tariff action by U.S. President Donald Trump on April 3rd that targeted imports from Canada and other nations. Automakers have started adjusting their production and supply strategies. Mazda has paused shipments on the US built CX-50 to Canada, and Nissan has temporarily halted exports of the Pathfinder, Murano, and Frontier. Trade negotiations between Ottawa and Washington are continuing, with both sides targeting an agreement by August 1st. Without a resolution, more automakers may follow Mazda and Nissan in withdrawing US assembled models from Canadian dealerships. The only other option is to put up the price, and obviously putting up the price 25% is not practical for most segments or most models, said Andrew King, managing partner at DeRosier. While sales impacts in the second quarter was limited by available inventory, King said deeper declines are expected in the coming months as dealers exhaust pre-tariff stock. Automakers with no production footprint in Canada, such as Hyundai, Kia, Mazda, and Nissan, are directly exposed to the full impact of the tariffs. This group's of share Canadian sales fell to 7% in Q2, down from 9% in Q1. In contrast, automakers with local production have benefited from a confidential remission program introduced by the Canadian government. The initiative reportedly provides import levy relief to Ford, General Motors, Honda, Stellantis, and Toyota in exchange for continued domestic investment and manufacturing. Beyond short term volatility, the figures reflect a longer term trend away from U.S. assembled vehicles in the Canadian market. According to Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, the value share of U.S. vehicles among Canadian light duty imports declined to 48.9% in 2024, down from 60.8% in 2024 and 66% in 2004. Wow. That is a 16, well, 18 to 20% drop since 2004. But since 2014, that's a 10% drop. Other vehicle exporting nations have filled the gap. Mexico's share more than doubled over the 2 decades to 16.7% in 2024, while South Korea increased its portion to 10.2% from 5.8% in 2004. Imports from China accounted for 2.9% in 2024, compared with almost none in previous decades. Oh, cool. So, yeah, um, good to know. It seems that, like I said, down from 41% to 39% overall in Q2. And hopefully that will have continued and will continue, because to do in Canada is add US autos to our boycott. We're going to have to do that. Now, according to Q data that I can see here, Canada's Q3 2025 auto sales showed overall growth around 5 to 6% year over year, driven by strong demand for small pickups, vans, and luxury compacts, alongside a big rush on EVs, PHEVs, before U.S. tax credits ended. The overall market faced increasing prices and tariff impacts, with brands like Ford, Toyota, and GM leading sales, while some segments like luxury and sports cars lagged. I don't think I have any data in here with regard uh, to how many U.S. sales here are, what U.S. sales are showing, but in Canada. But here, how do we see it? This is according to Canadian Auto Dealer. This is December 1st, 2025. U.S. new vehicle sales are expected to ease in November as higher prices and waning electric vehicle demand temper what had been a strong stretch for the market. Cox Automotive Products says a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 15.7 million, slightly ahead of October, but below last year's 16.5 million. Sales volume is forecast to reach 1.27 million units, down 1% from October and nearly 8% year over year. Ooh, wow. Fewer selling days account for part of the decline. Wow. Okay. So yeah, Canadians seem to be doing what is needed here. And if you follow Klaus Kellerman, he's been talking about this a lot um, in during his show as well, about not buying U.S. cars or cars made in the U.S. And buying some in Canada. So for your information, kits and cubs, if you're in the market for a car and do not want to support the US, you might want to be looking at buying the Silverado or the Silverado HD from Chevrolet, which are made in Oshawa and Ingersoll. The Honda Civic gas or hybrid, and the CRV gas or hybrid, which are manufactured in Alliston. Toyota, the RAV4 gas and hybrid, the Lennox, the NX, or the Lennox RX, which are in Cambridge and Woodstock. For Stellantis, the Chrysler Pacifica gas and hybrid, the Dodge Charger, the Daytona, the Chrysler Grand Caravan. That is made out of Windsor and Brampton. And for Ford, the Ford Edge, the Ford Nautilus, and those are made in Oakville. Now, these are models that are made in Canada. You might also want to look at examples of car models imported to Canada, but that are not made in the United States. So you would have Mazda. Most models, such as the Mazda 3, MX-5, and CX-5, are imported from Japan. For Toyota, several models, including the Corolla Hatch GR, Corolla BZ4X, and the Land Cruiser, are imported from Japan. Hyundai and Kia, a high availability of production in South Korea, making many of their models are imported into Canada. Other European brands like Peugeot and Suzuki often import vehicles to Canada from their home countries. You have Volvo. The models like the EX30 and the EX40 or EC40 are made in China and Belgium, respectively. And specific models like the Lexus NX PHEV, RX PHEV, and IS are also imported from Japan. So these are some autos that you might want to look for if you are kits and cubs in the market. And want to participate in that boycott. Also, like I said, if there is U.S. manufacturing leaving Canada and these countries want to keep up a North American base, they might be inclined to set up shop to start having a little bit of manufacturing here in Canada, which is what I'm kind of hoping would happen with Saab if we took the contract for the Gripens, that eventually there might be some Saab manufacturing of cars perhaps in Canada for sale for the North American market, but not having to cross the border over and over and over again with the United States. And also, as that data from that auto source was giving us with increased trade with Mexico, maybe there's an opportunity for Canada and Mexico to do more together on auto assembly and manufacturing that does not involve the United States, and that we could bypass it somehow. But that would be a long time future goal. But yeah, very interesting. Very, very interesting information here. And hopefully that drop from 41% to 39% that we saw in the second quarter picks up steam. Because that is a good way to handle the United States. Basically, if you're looking at auto manufacturing in the United States, um, according to Klaus Kellerman, Canada represents the entirety of their profit. So basically, what the United States makes and sells for itself, it covers their operating costs, and whatever it is they make and sell in Canada is basically their net profit. So if we just stop buying U.S. cars, or at least cars that are, if we start buying US cars or cars manufactured in the US and buy cars that are manufactured in Canada or cars that are not manufactured in the United States but that are imported into Canada, we can hurt the United States pretty significantly, like we have on tourism. So, like I said, you might want to pass the word on to your friends if you hear that they're in the market for a car, maybe not to buy an American car or a car that's at least assembled in the United States in favor of one assembled in Canada or assembled anywhere else in the world but the United States by some of our allies and partners who are still reliable. Let's just put it that way. Okay. But yeah, very important information coming from the manufacturing sector on that front here. And I thought to hear about that. In addition, It seems that the comprehensive economic and trade agreement that we have with Europe has made it easier for European auto manufacturers to sell their cars in Canada. European country companies like Mercedes and Volvo are ramping up their presence in Canada, bringing their electric vehicles and hybrids that match both Canadian climate and consumer sensibility. It also fits with our push to create greener manufacturing chains. So, for example, I think part of Mark Carney's comprehensive climate strategy or competitive climate strategy, even though he still hasn't sat down and had a press conference and said specifically what it is and laid it all out for us, which he probably should, is replacing stuff that we're already doing that's higher intensity with stuff that's lower. So, for example, we're already mining. If we are going to mine, then let's have something like those copper mines that he put on those special projects that will essentially be net zero for all intents and purposes. If we are going to do oil and gas, like we have been doing, then let's decarbonize the extraction portion of oil and let's make our LNG gas plants some of the most less GHG intensive in the entire world. If we are going to be manufacturing automobiles, then let's manufacture primarily green automobiles, right? And one of the things on that front, since we're talking about EVs, that I have not seen on the major projects list and nobody's talking about, I don't know where is the project from east to west electrification of the Trans Canada Highway to make it sure that if we want to buy an EV vehicle, that we could get to coast and that the charging stations are where that they need to be. It seems to me that that would be a project of major importance somehow, and I'm surprised nobody has stepped up, or that there hasn't been a formal request for someone to step up and take care of that, because we will indeed need that. It's going to be as essential as a high-speed train. Although I did hear that there was a project with regard to trains. I think it is Calgary to Banff that somebody wants to put uh, on the list. This is according to the C here. Again, I'm surprised it's not Calgary to Edmonton for the project. Amir Said from CBC News reports a proposal for a hydrogen powered passenger rail connecting Calgary and Banff has been submitted to the federal government in the hopes of having it fast tracked. The Lyrican Capital and Plenary Americas will pay for the line connecting the city to the mountain town as long as the provincial government pays for a rail connecting the Calgary International Airport to the downtown. Calgary Mayor Jeremy Farkas called the project not only a critical economic development opportunity, but also a value for every commuters. It's not just for visitors to Calgary to hop on a train, go downtown, see our amazing city, then go to the mountains. He said it's also a benefit for commuters in Calgary to be able to get to the airport and to work. The federal government's Major Projects Office, which helps expedite projects of national significance, declined to comment on the rail proposal. Farkas said the rail line would benefit other southern Alberta communities as well. The proposed rail would have some Cochrane, Miniti, and Canmore, for instance. It reflects a way that we can better work together and hunt as a pack on these economic opportunities, he said. Joe Pavelka, professor of ecotourism and outdoor leadership at Mount Royal University, pointed to several potential benefits of the rail, including helping alleviate Banff's concerns around vehicular traffic. Quote, that's going to have a very positive impact for Banff and for the entire Bow Valley, he said. It just makes managing people in the park easier. He expects much of the rail's ridership to be commuters and people going to and from the airport rather than tourists. He said being able to easily go to and from Banff without a car would also make Calgary a more competitive market for hosting conferences and conventions. Paul Martin with Plenary Americas said in an emailed statement that depending on when the province comes on board, the rail project could start construction in 2028 and start carrying passengers by 2030. In terms of major hurdles, the primary one is getting government commitment to this project, he said. The proposal has been in the works for years. The previous provincial government under Jason Kenney's leadership wouldn't dedicate money to the idea. Provincial Minister of Transportation Devin Dreeshen said that it's still very early when asked about committing to the project, pointing to the need for consultation with municipalities and First Nations, as well as an assessment of how the project aligns with the province's passenger rail strategy. Wow, so much thought for passenger rail that doesn't go into an oil pipeline coming from Alberta. I'll just let that sit there for a while. Mm. Jan Waterous, Lyricon's managing partner, said receiving the green light from Ottawa's Major Projects Office might help expedite the provincial government's approval of the project. Quote, "Our hope is that should this project be approved by the Major Projects Office, that this would provide the province with further comfort that we're serious and that this project could actually get built. Since the Major Projects Office launched in August, Prime Minister Mark Carney has recommended 11 projects for fast tracking, none of which are in Alberta." And that's not because Mark Carney has a problem with Alberta. Let us reiterate, kits and cubs, that is because the province of Alberta am lazy to do the work of coming up with an idea other than a pipeline to put on the list. That's because the government of Alberta has been playing an all or nothing gambling game. It's a pipeline or it's proof that Canada doesn't work, and have been showing an incredible lack of creativity and imagination in terms of coming up with projects that could get on the list or could be approved that could move Alberta forward. They are holding every other project, potential project that anybody else can dream of, hostage for a pipeline that could become a white elephant by the time it's actually built. If it is ever built. But that's Alberta. That's Alberta for you. What can I say? Actually, I shouldn't say that's Alberta. That's conservative governments in Alberta for you. Pretty much. Yeah. Less than impressive. All right, kids and cubs. Did any of you turn in to watch that World Cup draw? Because that was some really weird stuff. Yes, uh, I'm not talking only about Infantino deciding that Donald Trump was going to get the FIFA Peace Prize, which never existed before just now. And if you saw that ceremony, oh boy, Donald Trump sure was happy because as Infantino was talking to him about the medal, and the medal is sort of like being shown to him, Donald Trump just reached in there, snatched, grabbed it, and didn't even hesitate, didn't even look to see if there's anybody to present it to him or put it on him. He just put it on himself. And that moment probably symbolizes the entire Trump. I want it. I want it. I want it. Oh, it's there. Give me shiny. It's mine. I'm gonna put it on myself. No, no, I don't need you. And then standing there beaming. Look at me. Look at me. And then he did this other thing also with peace. Apparently, there's an institute for peace or something in the United States that Donald Trump has been spending most of his time gutting. And now that he wants the Pete Prize, has put his name on it. So it's now the Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace or something like that. But it doesn't actually do anything to help with peace because it's been gutted. Anyway, whatever. But he wants to be known as a peacemaker. He certainly does. And there was that part, and then there was why was Wayne Gretzky there? It's soccer. Why was he there at all? Oh yeah, Donald Trump and he are friends. And then Wayne Gretzky not being able to pronounce the names of many countries. You would think, again, I don't know why, but just it's the communications guy in me. World Cup, biggest game in the world, biggest sporting event in the world, even bigger than the Olympics in terms of the number of people who watch and all that type of stuff like this. The world global game, the beautiful game. You would think that the people you have reading the names of the countries that are in each group, you think that you would have taken the time to make sure that you had somebody there picking those names that had enough of knowledge of the world that could pronounce the name of countries. Who knows that Macedonia is Macedonia, not Macedonia, for example. Now, I don't know, maybe this is because I am French and there is a group of vegetables that you can put together that's called a Macédoine, Macedonia, Macédoine. Um, but I have never heard Macedonia ever, ever anywhere. And I do not know how you can be the age of Wayne Gretzky and never heard the word Macedonia ever in your life. But maybe that's just me. according to the New Yorker's Louisa Thomas. In early November, when FIFA's soccer's governing body announced a new annual peace prize to honor those who have, quote, helped you to unite people all over the world in peace, the news was regarded as a farce. Given that Gianni Infantino, the head of FIFA, had recently expressed his displeasure that President Donald Trump did not win the Nobel Peace Prize, and because the FIFA awards seemed to have been concocted on the spot, there was no doubt about the intended recipient. But it turns out that the FIFA Peace Prize isn't only a joke, it's also a trophy, a certificate, and a medal. On Friday, during the World Cup draw at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., Infantino officially presented the award to the man he has called his, quote, close friend, Trump. After showing Trump the oddly gruesome trophy, which somewhat suggests the undead rising from the grave, Infantino reached out to help Trump put on the medal. Let me hold, Infantino said while extending his hand, but Trump ignored it and medaled himself. The FIFA chief gushed. Ah, fantastic. The award ceremony, with its blatant political pandering, was one of the more embarrassing periods in the long embarrassing history of FIFA, an organization famously rife with fraud and corruption. Apparently, there is news going around that the FIFA board wants to investigate this whole peace prize thing. And it's like, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, that's really cute. And I would believe that when I see it and it lasts, because FIFA does not exactly have the reputation of being an organization that gets involved with deep, long, and probing looks at itself. I'm just saying, not its reputation. But anyway, ay, ay, ay. But at night might not have even been the cringiest moment of the afternoon. There were repeated jokes about calling Saul. Infantino pretended to spurn the comedian Kevin Hart, one of the celebrity presenters for the star-studded event, on his way to hug Hart's co-host Heidi Klum. Wayne Gretzky pronounced Curacao as Curacao. The Village People performed YMCA as if it were a Trump fundraiser, and then seemed not to know how to end their own song. Ouch. Rio Ferdinand opened his mouth and spoke when Infantino took a selfie on stage with Trump. President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico and Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney. My mind flashed back to the sight of Infantino laughing during Trump's second inauguration as the American president declared that he planned to rename the Gulf of Mexico. Uh, so yeah, uh, except lots of weird things happening. And what of peace? Trump has spent his second term threatening undocumented immigrants and ordering sweeping ICE raids. His administration has been authorizing missile strikes in the Caribbean that have killed dozens of people on the ground of the alleged drug trafficking. And he hasn't ruled out strikes in Mexico, one of the United States World Cup co hosts. Oh, yes. Yeah, he did talk about sending in the military to Mexico to run some operations. So, again, going back to all the conservatives in Canada who were complaining when Canada had some tariffs somewhere risen to 35% and Mexico didn't. And they go, well, why is Mexico not getting this special treatment? Why did Canada fail? Trump is actively talking about sending U.S. troops onto the ground in Mexico, which he has never done here yet. Expect it, but he hasn't done it yet. So did Mexico really get the better end of that deal for being more compliant or not? I would say no. Mm. He also suggested annexing Canada, another co-host. Trump once referred to Haiti, which against long odds and to the immense thrill of its people has qualified for its first World Cup since 1974, as, quote, a shithole, and during his campaign accused Haitian immigrants without evidence of eating cats and dogs. Shortly before Trump received the Peace Prize, his Secretary of Homeland Security announced that the United States' travel ban, which already included Haiti and another World Cup qualifier, Iran, would extend to more than 30 countries. Whether any country's fans won't be allowed in so far is unknown, but the uncertainty seems like it's part of the point. There was actually a draw at the draw show, however, obscured by all the gas and fluff. The group slots were filled, pathways revealed. During the 2026 World Cup, 48 teams will compete. That's 16 more contenders than there were last time. There had been some concern that expanding the tournament so dramatically would dilute the quality of matchups, but for the most part, that doesn't seem to have happened. There are tense matches everywhere. England will face Croatia early. Brazil will take on Morocco. We'll have the chance to see France's Kylian Mbappe, perhaps the best player of his generation, go up against Norway's Erling Haaland, one of the few players who might rival him. Even the US, which has a favorable draw, it recently beat two of the teams in its group in friendlies, will need to play up to form, which has not always or often been the case since a promising showing in the last World Cup. The team's first game in Los Angeles on June 12th is against Paraguay. Their friendly last month, which the US won, ended in a brawl. Yay. Trump once described Infantino as a child eyeing presents under a Christmas tree and at another time as a sort of the king of soccer, I guess. Lapdog may have been more apt. But all that sucking up on Infantino's part sort of makes sense, I guess. There was a time when Infantino had been a relatively well liked Swiss bureaucrat and unthreatening candidate for the top spot after much of FIFA's leadership was ousted owing to accusations of corruption and graft. Infantino won his role in 2016 in part by promising to restore FIFA's reputation, but mostly by promising to send some of FIFA's wealth back to member organizations. To do that, he talked about expanding flagship tournaments, growing the game in emergency markets, and an ambition to revamped World Cup. Sorry, and an ambition. Sorry, and an ambitious revamped Club World Cup. He used the rhetoric that Trump knows better than anyone, the language of more. He wanted more games, more host cities, more revenue, which meant naturally more reliance on autocrats. He has got what he wanted so far. He presided over a World Cup in the oil-rich desert of Qatar in 2022. For this one, there will be 16 host cities in 3 countries. The first round will feature 72 games across 12 groups. 6 million tickets are expected to be sold. The price hikes are already setting records. Infantino has claimed that his World Cup would likely be hosting 104 Super Bowls. He might have been understating it. Super Bowls don't require expediting visas access in Uzbekistan for ticketers. So Infantino needed Trump, chaos and all, not only to carve out exceptions for the travel bans or to sell soccer or football, as Trump has decided, to MAGA crowds, but also to open doors, and Trump has done just that. There was Infantino with Trump at Davos. There was Infantino at the signing of the Abraham Accords. There was Infantino with some of the world's richest men on the dais at Trump's second inauguration. There was Infantino with Trump at Gaza Peace Summit. There was Infantino aboard a Qatari private jet after joining Trump for meetings in Doha. There was Infantino at the White House for a state dinner honoring Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who was a critical figure in bringing the World Cup to Saudi Arabia in 2034, a bid that went unopposed. It's been reported that FIFA's revenues for the 4-year cycle since Qatar will exceed $10 billion, more than double the revenues it received before the tournament was held in Russia in 2018, not long after Infantino took over. Infantino did reform FIFA, just not in the way one might have imagined. Tasked with changing a culture where money was passed under the table, he arguably got rid of the table. It's all in the open now. And yet, the World Cup in Qatar was a human rights catastrophe, but also a fantastic sporting event, featuring some of the best performances by some of the best players in history and ending with an unforgettable final. There's every reason to imagine that the World Cup this summer will have its share of disasters and that it too will offer the best kind of high drama. It is a peculiar kind of irony that many of the people who love soccer most in this country are immigrants or women or children, those whose Trump's policies have hurt the most. But the game is protected by the people who love it, love the game, and it loves you back. So yes, uh, it was something really weird. It would appear, kits and cubs, that Canada got put into Pool A, and things were looking really, really good, having drawn Qatar and Switzerland. Switzerland is higher ranked than we are, but not so much that it could be a walk in the park for them, that we would have a chance. We are higher ranked than Qatar, and we were looking good because it went to pool the last pot, which usually has the lowest ranked teams, and also the teams yet to qualify. And it turns out that we got one of the European qualifying ones, and the one in which Italy, who has won 3 times and has not yet qualified this time around, is in. So most likely we can suspect Italy would win that one. And therefore, what looked like when we had drawn Switzerland and Qatar as a very, very good chance to perhaps making it to the playoffs for the first time ever, now we face the possibility of Italy also being in our quarter, which would make for a very, very interesting first match in Canada. Would be Canada versus Italy right away in the first match. Which would also, a lot of people are talking, given the size of the Italian diaspora and given how Italians feel about soccer, that it might feel more like a road game for Team Canada than a home game for Team Canada, should that happen. But yes, we are looking at the prospect of both Italy and Switzerland, which would be higher ranked than us in our pool, which would make our task of advancing a little more difficult. So what was looking really, really, really good took a really sad twist at the end when we drew that. But like I said, we have an amazing team and we do have home field advantage, hopefully. So maybe that will help our boys for the first time ever. Uh, win a game at the World Cup and also advance. Because right now our major achievement is a one goal scored in one game in two attempts. But hey, that's okay. Um, Now, it would appear that there was a bit of a meeting between Trump and Carney and Scheinbaum at the event. Mark Carney apparently just walked in um, to the room where Trump was and just went right up to Trump and started engaging him, shaking his hand. So Mark Carney not behaving like there's anything awkward going on whatsoever. Um, and they were seen to be laughing, and I guess touching each other, shoulder bumps or something like that, or ha ha ha, hand on the shoulder type of thing. So things seem friendly and cordial. Also with Scheinbaum, President Trump appears to personally like both Carney and Scheinbaum, so that makes it easier. And apparently, they had a meeting, a 45-minute meeting, without any officials in the room on the side. So anybody thought that if there was ever going to be a meeting, maybe like a 5 or 10 minute thing pulled aside, but it was a full 45-minute one. Like I said, with no handlers in the room, which could be a good thing. So we'll wait to see if anything emerges from that. But as we mentioned, we probably should not have held much hope that there would be any developments as a result of that time together. And of course, we had um, Trump's famous um, take after the meeting that he says about everything when he doesn't want to give a firm answer because, of course, everything is nailing jello with the wall. And when he was talking about trade talks, will it happen? Um, Basically, we got the very firm and dedicated and committed "we'll see." He loves saying "we'll see." To the Canadian press, U.S. President Donald Trump answered, "We'll see," when he was asked Sunday whether he'd resume trade talks he halted with Canada earlier this year. Guess that's better than no. Trump made several comments about the ongoing trade dispute with Canada as he spoke with reporters outside a gala for the 2025 Kennedy Center honors. He says he has a good relationship with Prime Minister Mark Carney, but that Canada, in his words, quote, makes a lot of things we don't need because we make them also. Trump then said, "We'll work it out." The president halted trade talks in October over an Ontario-sponsored ad that quoted former President Ronald Reagan criticizing tariffs. He and Carney appeared to get on well Friday when they sat with Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum during the FIFA World Cup draw before the three leaders entered a closed-door meeting. Quote, we spoke for a half hour. Very good, very productive. We talked mostly trade, Trump said of the meeting. I have a great relationship with Canada. They're very tough traders, but I have a very good relationship with the Prime Minister and with Canada. No, you don't. You do not have a great relationship with Canada. You might have a great relationship with the Prime Minister, but you do not have a great relationship with Canada. Canada is a special place, and they really are good at ice hockey, aren't they? Oh, yes. Gee, delve deep into the memory banks for a fact you know about Canada. After Friday's meeting, which also happened at the Kennedy Center, the Prime Minister's office said the leaders agreed to keep working on the Canada-US-Mexico trade agreement on trade known as CUSMA. That's the other well-worn line in diplomacy. We've agreed to continue meeting. Ooh, big development. Mm. It was the first private meeting between Carney and Trump since the U.S. president ended trade talks in October. On Wednesday, Trump mused about letting CUSMA die when it comes up for review next year. Mexico and Canada have been searching for tariff off-ramps while making the case for duty-free continental trade. Trump boosted duties on Canada to 35% in August, but has continued to give extensions to Mexico, which is being hit by 25% duties. Both countries are also being slammed by the president's separate tariffs on steel, aluminum, automobiles, lumber, and copper. On Sunday, Trump hosted the Kennedy Center honors, marking the first time a U.S. president has taken the stage instead of watching from the balcony. The year's honorees include Sylvester Stallone, Kiss, Gloria Gaynor, George Strait, and Michael Crawford. So there you go, kits and cubs. They had a meeting, seemed to go well. Trump says we'll see whether or not anything will be lifted. And the Canadian side is we've agreed to more talks. So, like I said, a big unsatisfying. It's basically what we got, an unsatisfying blah. Oh well, but yeah, according to CBC here on the same topic, um, and they use the same thing as me. They made the comment. They made an editorial comment saying that the "we'll see" was. He replied with a vague "we'll see." Hmm. A spokesperson for Carney said the talks were constructive, but on restarting the trade talks with Canada, which were suspended in October after the U.S. president bristled at anti-tariff ads run by the province of Ontario, uh, Trump was non-committal, only saying we'll work it out. Um, let's see, what else do we have in here? Nope, that's about all the additional information that's available in that article. So yeah, not particularly satisfying, but it's what we suggested probably would be the case here. That if there was a meeting at all, we wouldn't get much out of it, and there wouldn't be much, and there would be no announceables, that's for sure. But we were surprised that there even was a meeting where they talked trade. So Trump must have been in a particularly good mood after getting his medal. The toddler was happy, so Scheinbaum and Carney took advantage of it to go in and pounce and have a little meeting, and hopefully that will work. Yeah, God, he is exhausting, isn't he? He really is. All right, kits and cubs. One last little bit for you that I have here, because we're not talking about it a lot, but there is an NDP leadership race going on here. And they had a debate last week. I think it was on Wednesday night. The debate was in Montreal. The goal was to try to have the debate 60% in French and 40% in English. A lot of the francophone content early on was provided by Monsieur Boulris, and I can't remember his last name off the top of my head, but who is the sole uh, NDP MP from Quebec remaining. He was the host, Alexandre Boulris, of an event. He is the MP for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. And then they had Carl Bélanger, who I believe used to be a high-level operator for the NDP, if I remember correctly. He was the interim national director of the New Democratic Party of Canada from January 23rd, 2016 to September 2016, the principal secretary to Tom Mulcair during his tenure of the opposition. So Cal Bélanger was the moderator of that debate. Now, as a francophone, I will state that when reading, Avi Lewis and Heather McPherson's pronunciation of French was good enough that they could be understood. Avi Lewis's was much better than Heather McPherson's. And Avi Lewis seems to be, of all five of them, the one that has the most ability to speak off the cuff and maintain a certain amount of flow. Again, I don't know if all of that was off the cuff and extemporaneous, or whether or not he had been able to predict certain questions that he would be asked and pre-write the things out in French so he had it in front of them and that he could look at you and talk and then look down to read things now and then, or whether or not it was all off the cuff. But Lewis had the most competence by far out of all of them. And then it was Lewis and McPherson, and then you had the other three who were less competent, very obviously. And you had to do a lot more work to understand them pronunciation wise. But I have to say that despite uh, the difficulty and whatnot, there really was a valiant attempt by all five candidates to include as much French as they could. And even Rob Ashton was trying to. There were times in the debate where they were required to speak in French, and times where it was open. And there were times where Rob Ashton was not required to speak in French, where he was making the attempt to do so. So we had one person trying to go over and above, and he apologized many times for his French not being up to snuff, and saying that he would want to learn it and is going to make efforts to learn it better and speak it better. Um, there was also, uh, I mean, acknowledgement from pretty much everyone there that they needed to do that. So that was good. Maybe too many references to it over the course of the debate, but um, overall, said they made a good they made a good effort for it, and like I said, they do have to improve. There definitely has to be much more. But I was surprised by how much there was, considering uh, everything that I'd heard in the press about how bad the level of French was. There was one moment with regard to language, and this is from Tennille Johnston, uh, that I really did like from her, um, because she is an Indigenous candidate for the leadership, uh, and did make a point about language uh, that was particularly interesting. I would say that of the five, she probably had the least ability to speak it, um, and probably is the candidate that spoke the least French in her comments. Uh, but she was able to make a point. Um, I would have. She was able to make a point about language that would show uh, that even though she doesn't speak it well, that she is seized with the issue, and she does truly understand it. And I would like to present this moment for you here, kids, if I am able to. Computers being a little slow this morning here at the moment. So here we go. Uh, talking about language specifically.
Hear what Avi, you're saying around the language barrier. I do believe we can absolutely rise above that, and part of that work of connecting with your local champions, the folks that live and breathe in community all day long, is just that. I don't believe that a language barrier should prevent us from being great. I think we can work across that. I think we can bridge that. I think everybody up here, I like to believe, that is dedicated to learning the French language. On a personal note, my adult life has been spent trying to hone my native language of Likola. We only have about maybe 6 to 10 fluent language speakers that speak Likola in my community of all our Likola speakers. So I really feel the commitment deep to language as Quebec do, as Francophone folks do, and I really hope that we can bridge that gap. I'm truly deeply committed to access to French across our country in a super equitable way, because I know what it feels like to have your language threatened.
So there you go. I thought that that was a wonderfully delivered comment on the part of Tennille Johnston with regard to language. There was another portion of the debate um, that I'm hopefully able to find for you, uh, kits and cubs, um, because it seems that I did not note the timestamp. But it was a question that gives um, the opportunity for each one of the candidates vying for the leadership to actually um, get a chance to speak on a subject that they know very well and can actually um, show that they have put some thought into it, and give you a sense um, of where it is they stand on values and that type of stuff. It was the part of the night uh, because it wasn't the most engaging debate, I have to say. But it was the point of the night where they actually got to speak um, in such a way. I guess my thing is that they were more warmed up at this point, and therefore they were able uh, to speak more from the heart and show more personality than they had by this point. So I want, and all five of them were able to shine in this particular moment. So rather than going through the entire debate and trying to pick various segments like I did for Miss Johnston, in which they shined the most. I believe that this particular section of the debate gave the opportunity for all of them to speak one after another in a manner that was clear and consistent, where you can get a sense of their abilities and their personality, their rigor, their thought process, and could compare them one after another. Uh, Unfortunately, I am having trouble finding the section, Kits and Cubs, so I might have to save it for another show. Um, sad about that. Sorry, Kits and Cubs. I thought I was going to be able to find it very easily, but it seems that yesterday when I took that note, I forgot to do one final save before that was the case, and uh, and then lost the whole thing. But um, yeah. So yeah, unfortunately, I can't find the section. Unfortunately, that I was looking for. It was closer to the end of the debate, and but there you go. I might have it in a future show for you, Kits and Cubs. All right. Uh, but yes, there was on the upside in the debate. I didn't hear too much purity testing, which was cool. You did have a broad range of perspectives because a lot of people would like to think of the social democratic left as being pretty much monolithic, uh, but it isn't. There was some great moments of difference. We had some candidates that were more concerned about, for example, proportional representation, and that we needed to fix that. That was the basis of fixing everything else. We have Mr. Rob Ashton, who comes more from the trade union side. And has much more of that perspective. And when topics come on employment, you can see that he's got much more passion and that it comes out there. We have Avi Lewis, uh, more high level intellectual, and you can see that. You have Heather McPherson, who's the only one of the five candidates who actually is an MP and representing people. So you can see there are certain moments in the debate where she's really, you can tell, speaking to members specifically rather than the whole Canadian public as a whole. Which in this at this stage of things is important to do. So you can see that she is a political animal and that she understands where she needs to do certain things in there. Um, so it's a good collection of candidates who have things to say. It is very clear that some of them are politically more neophytes than others. Mr. McQuail is incredibly likable uh, farmer, and I think has been involved in those politics before, may have even ran before for certain things. Um, uh, you know, but a farmer that is like not only interested in his farm and in his farming, but that you can tell he has a window onto the world in his comments, and it's so nobody is um, uh, got their nose too stuck to the tree that they can't see the entire forest, which is very refreshing in terms of this debate. So, while the communication barrier made it much harder for them to speak, there was a whole section on reconciliation and why it was important, but that section was in French, and we got a lot of "c'est très important." It's very important. It's very important. It's very important. Heather McPherson, that seems to be her fallback line in French. "C'est très important." She says it a lot. Um, so maybe a visit with a thesaurus to find a couple of other words that mean important other than the word important might be helpful here. Um, but if you can get past uh, thin content in French, and watch and assume the best of these people and try to fill in the blanks a little bit where you can. You do have 5 quality candidates, 5 quality people. Let's just say, I should say, 5 quality people, level of various experience with whether how it applies to being a good candidate and a good potential party leader. That might be a little more debatable. Uh, but 5 very quality people whose passion cannot be denied. Um, so in that sense, it was very positive. I'm looking forward for the English language debate that will probably be taking place in February, and that will be in BC, and then the vote will be taking place in March. And there was one candidate I had hoped would be there, Eve Engler, um, who has when this whole thing started, was the first one out saying that he would be in the race and somehow is not. I'm not sure if the financial rules that were put in place made it such that he was not able to join. As we reported recently, the financial element of this race has been a barrier for many of them with, it seemed that Tanil Johnson was not going to be making it across the threshold. And then Mr. McQuaid suspended his own fundraising and held an all-day telethon for her to help bring or suspended all campaigning to help more funding go to Tanil Johnston so that she can remain in the race. And then she returned the favor by hosting an all-day sort of telethon online where a whole bunch of people brought their talents, and they were able to raise enough money for him to meet the threshold so that he can participate in the debate. And that was a good thing because the debate was elevated by his participation. Of course, there's another $25,000 threshold that's coming very soon, I think by the end of December, and it might be more difficult maybe for Miss Johnston and Mr. McQuaid to reach that threshold the second time round, especially since I think there's another fundraising threshold after that, which will be significantly more. So I have a feeling that we might lose a couple of candidates along the way, unfortunately, because they do add a lot to the race, and it would be nice to be able to keep them all the way through. But it's looking like that might be the case eventually. But at least for this first debate, we had all 5 and all the ideas there. It was nice to see that there is some life in the party, and that they are not bereft of ideas, and that they have some paths forward that they would like to share with us and talk to us about and get our opinion about, and maybe see if they can form a full cogent policy platform based on them. So, like I said, the race has been relatively quiet up until now, but there are things going on. And yeah, that first debate took place. Like I said, left a lot to be desired in terms of content and overall ideas. By the virtue of the fact that people weren't able to express them as colorfully and fully and substantively in French as they could have in English. But still, overall, an informative debate. But like I said, probably not so much in terms of policy, but in terms of just merely judging the mettle of the 5 people that have presented themselves as candidates. All right, kids and cubs, that's about all I have for you today here on the Daily Beaver Morning Show. And I'm going to remember to make a note of myself to find that passage of the NDP debate to present it to you on a future show this week, because I do want you to have an opportunity to see the candidates when they are at their best. so that you can make an assumption. I do not want to present like say, oh, this is them at their best and this is them at their worst or something, or this is them at their best and here's a mediocre moment because I just found one to fill in because I needed one for somebody or something. And that little passage did give an opportunity to see them performing very well. So I will put a note in my filing cabinet up here to make sure to bring that to you, hopefully tomorrow, unless something big happens and upends the entire news day and just dictates the course of the show tomorrow, because that could happen. It can. We're living in wild times. All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Oh, I'm seeing somebody here saying too used to the beaver softness. I have no idea what that's about, but I will say thank you. I will assume that beaver softness here is a compliment. Please tell me it's a compliment. All right. For the third time, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you loved listening to us because we loved making this for you. And I see that Kit Cassie has joined us this morning. Hello, dear one. I see you in the chat. So please, kids and cubs, remember sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. And if you can share why it is that our content resonated with you when you share our content, that would mean the world to us because we can't buy that type of advertising. So thank you so much. Kids and cubs, if you are busy and on the go and don't have time to watch the Daily Beaver Morning Show live with the best DamFam and all of podcasting, or even on your own time because you need to be places, well, hey, we have a podcast version for you. True North Eager Beaver, the podcast version. Ooh, yes. Pop us in your ears and take us with you. We are lightweight and portable. And in order to do that, well, hey, thanks to our friend the Ray Girl, well, she has made it such that we can fund our pod page. That's podpage.com/the-true-north-eager-beaver. If you scan that QR code, it will bring you over there. And when you go over there and click subscribe, when we have something fresh off the podcast bandwidth, we will come directly to you. Of course, unfortunately, being able to get stuff up on podcast for the moment has been hitting some snags since the end of September. Unfortunately, we've not been able to update it. We're hoping to be able to get back to that relatively soon, but we are having a little bit of difficulty. So for those of you who watched us on podcast, who have come to our YouTube channel, we haven't disappeared. It's just that with all the changes over here, some things have indeed slid, and that is one of them. I am hoping that I will soon be able to learn from Mr. Grizzly how it is we do that portion so that I might be able to do it myself if to have a backup in case there's either a technological problem at Mr. Grizzly's end or just a time constraint at his end that he can't do it. We have the tasks divided, given that there's only two of us with not much redundancy between us. And now we start to have to, I think we're at a point where we have to include a little bit of a redundancy level in order to make sure that we're able to get everything done. What we really need is an employee, but we don't have the budget yet for it. So we're doing our best at our end, and we are very, very, our biggest apologies to our podcast listeners who have not been able to get a new podcast in podcast form for the last few months, but we are working on it and trying to fix that for you. And trust, we have noticed that is the fact that we have not been able to get them has reflected in our tips, and we are hoping that we can get that fixed so that we can get all of our audience back, because I think we've lost a lot of it during this period of time where we've not been able to get the podcast shows up. Like I said, there's been a lot of stuff behind the scenes this year in terms of with a Crier, closing down, and Dean going the Substack route, and us trying to find new partners so that we're not completely on our own. And it's been a trick year this time. We are in discussions with another network and have been for a while, but they've got some large expansion projects of their own going on at the time, and bringing us on board as fast as we could have been has not been the highest priority. So we're sort of in limbo for a little bit, kits and cubs, which has been going on, and it has been since April. We've been doing the best that we can here behind the scenes, trying to make it such that we can have a consistent output. But like I said, with only two and without a company behind us anymore to help us with that, the additional workload has made it such that certain things have had to go by the wayside. And we are trying our best to be able to pick that up and fix that for you. But being at the moment fully independent is a lot more work than we thought it would be. And some things have had to slide in the process, unfortunately. But we are looking to get it back together. And hopefully we will have that sooner rather than later for you. But we do apologize for having to let the podcast slip over the last 2 months. There's only so many hours in the day. And hopefully we will fix that for you, because we do need to do that. We want to keep all of our audience. And of course, the tips that we get from our audio listening only audience do help keep us afloat. Our goal of breaking even this year has taken a hit as a result of us not being able to get that contact out to that whole segment of viewers. So it is something we do need to fix, because it is impeding our ability to grow as fast as we need to. So just wanted to give you an update of what was going on behind the scenes, especially if you are someone that has used to listen to us on podcast only and has come to us on video cast because you've been looking for us. We haven't disappeared. It's just we're having troubles. There's a lot to do and not enough hours in the day. So kits and cubs. In addition, if you would like us, if you would like to help us, what you can do is travel on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page. That QR code that just appeared in the corner will bring you there. And there you can click on our buttons like, share, and subscribe. Kits, Cassie, and Elaine highly encourage you to do so, because when you do, not only does it help us with the algorithm, but we see our numbers go up. And over the course of the weekend, we did indeed see our numbers go up here. I think we are at 27,600. No, well, it's even gone up during the show. We're at 27,700 now. So we have our last advertising push of the year going on, and it seems that it is working in terms of bringing us new subscribers. So thank you to all of the new kits and cubs who are joining the DamFam and enjoying our content. Thank you so much. All right. And then, kits and cubs, if you would like to help us in other ways, we do need your financial support to help bring the show to you on a daily basis, because we do incur some costs in doing that. And you can help us by going to our coffee page with that. The QR code that just appeared will bring you there. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. Thank you very much. And if you go there, you will find the Emergency Hydration Fund here at the Beaver Lodge, where you can do your part to fight the scourge that is dry beaver. A moist beaver is a very happy beaver. So a couple of loonies or toonies in our tip jar make sure that your beaver remains well stocked in hot chocolate. Very important. So if you would like to send a little attaboy, attabeaver, attabear to us in the form of an enthusiastic expression of encouragement to keep what we're doing and to keep up with what we're doing, we would be very, very grateful for it. And thank you very much. Now, kits and cubs, if you are buying Canadian, we have a way for you to contribute that way. You just use our email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, and then you make your contribution that way from bank to bank. It keeps your transaction completely Canadian. Nobody from the U.S. oligarchy, the tech boys out there, will get a cut of your donation, which means that cut comes to us. We get 100% of it, and means your donation goes further. So thank you, kits and cubs, for all that you do to help us. And again, thanks to those who on Friday's show donated via the super chat function. We very much appreciate those donations. They made the world to us. Thank you so very much. And we also believe that I also believe that we had a kit uh, recently donate for us via our coffee page, and they wrote to us. Um, I have a. It says Kit Sharona, which is not the name I know, but I think it might have been Kit Sharon. Yeah, maybe Kit Sharon, who said, "Merry Christmas, DamFam," as she sent us a little something. So thank you for not only sending us a tip, but some holiday wishes. That means a lot to us. And you're our first holiday greeting and wish and holiday tip this year. So thank you so much, Kit Sharon, for your generosity and your encouragement. It means the world to us. And hopefully, Kits and Cubs, we will what we do resonates with you as well, and you enjoy what we do. Now, kids and cubs, if you're not able to contribute financially, please do not worry, because the gifts of your participation and the gifts of your attention are the ones that matter the most to us. And we're just so happy that you're here. And we want to hear from you. So please write to us. truenortheagerbeaver at gmail.com is our email address. Let us know what you think about the show, good, bad, or ugly. And also, if you have some suggestions for some guests for interviews, please let us know. We are more than happy to act on those and pursue those so that we can bring them to you. It's your show too. So thank you so much. And kids, remember that everything that you send us, either financial or in word, gets put back into the show in order to make it better. Now, if you want to reach us via our socials, at True Eager at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, also on the Jitter, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook is our original home. And if you're watching on our YouTube channel, either live with the best damn fam in all of podcasting, yeah, that's you, you lovely people, or on your own time, right down here in the comment section. And we also have an Instagram page, and we also have a DamFam Discord started by our fans. So please check those out too. We are very grateful for any time you spend with us, regardless of the format. So thank you. Thank you. All right, kids and cubs, because democracy is something that you do. Hey, 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 hey. It's December 8th. If you live on Prince Edward Island, it is by-election day, kids and cubs. Yes, it is. So if you live in District 2, Georgetown Tonal, from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., so I believe the voting offices are going to be opening in about 1 minute. Where it is you are on Prince Edward Island, and they will be open until 7 p.m. Please make sure that you go and vote. The leader of the Liberal Party of Prince Edward Island, Robert Mitchell, is running there, trying to confirm a seat in the legislature for himself. But of course, there are other candidates as well. So please make sure that you go vote, 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 and bring a friend with you, because nobody should be doing democracy alone. Mm-mm. Kits and cubs, some words of wisdom from your eager beaver. Um, I'm going to say, uh, roll with it. Roll with it is my advice. This is the holiday season, and we all have plans. Either plans to get shopping done by a certain time, plans to get cooking done by a first time, plans to host, plans to travel, plans to whatever. Uh, and well, most plans don't survive first contact. So, so um, just take it easy. All right. A lot of be kind to and gentle with yourself during this season. So have a plan, because, as Mark Carney says, a plan is better than no plan. But then again, if you've got 5 things on your to-do list and you get 2 or 3 of them checked off, that's a really, really good day, especially at this time of year. So, you know, um, don't be too hard for you. Don't be hard on yourself. And remember, triage is very important. And there might be some things you're just going to have to let go of. And don't feel guilty about that. All right? 'Tis the season. Kids and cubs. It could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And now, if I may, kids and cubs, at the count of 3, could I ask you for some little audience participation with a Mr. Beaver? Please cue the cock in 1, 2, 3. Let me hear it. Oh, yes, kits and cubs. Oh, that was fantastic. I heard you, and it touched me. I was moved, and therefore I must oblige. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, Kits and Cubs, just a little bit of news about Canadians who make us proud. We are in the Olympic season, of course, fewer than 100 days before the opening ceremonies of Milano Cortina, and a lovely success by Canadian athlete Val Grenier from our alpine ski team, according to Frédéric Daigle of the Canadian Press. Some bronze medals are worth their weight in gold. Valerie Grenier's third-place finish in women's giant slalom at the Mont-Tremblant World Cup certainly fits that category. Grenier climbed 2 spots in Saturday's second run, finishing with a combined time of 2 minutes 17.18 seconds to take bronze in the first of 2 races at the ski resort northwest of Montreal. The 29-year-old from Saint-Isidore, Ontario, who grew up skiing at Mont-Tremblant, was 1 second behind gold medalist Alice Robinson of New Zealand. It's incredible. I don't have many words to describe how I feel, Grenier said in the mixed zone at the bottom of the flying mile course. I'm having a hard time believing it. Feels like a dream come true. I really wanted it to happen this weekend, she added. Winning a medal here at home is really high on my list. The medal also helps soothe her 11th and the 13th place finishes in the first 2 races of the season, results Grenier called disappointing. Quote, I knew I was capable of better than that, she said. To finally put down 2 clean runs like I said I wanted feels really good. I think it's the dream of a lifetime for her and for us too. Getting a podium here is the sum of all the work we've done, said her coach Laurent Praz. It also rewards the work of everyone on the team and the volunteers at Tremblant. A podium here is worth much more than a podium in Europe. Grenier reached a World Cup podium for the first time since finishing third in the downhill at Cortina d'Ampezzo, Italy in January 2024 for the fifth time in her career. Yes, the hill on which we are going to be racing is a hill on which she has already won a World Cup medal. So this is picking up a World Cup medal going into the Olympic season is a very, very good sign for Val Grenier. 2 days after stepping onto the podium in Cortina, she suffered serious injuries to her right leg and knee that sidelined her until the 2024-2025 season. Once she secured her medal Saturday, she was visibly emotional in the finish area. It was a big reaction, big tears in my eyes, Grenier said. I still can't believe it happened. With my teammates jumping into my arms, it made me cry a lot. I've been waiting for this for a long time, especially after the injury. It took time, and seeing that I'm back on the podium feels good. And then Robinson finished ahead of silver medalist Zrinka Lucic of Croatia to earn her second straight victory. There we go. Also, Grenier led a trio of Canadians into the second run of the World Cup stop, and there was also some good other results for Canada. Britt Richardson, who was ninth after the first run, finished 15th, and Cassidy Gray placed 27th, and both of them are newer skiers on the team. So for them to be picking up top 30s and top 20s already, again, in an Olympic season, is a very, very good thing. And I believe, in addition, on the men's side, if I am not mistaken, we had Mr. Alexander, I believe his first name is Cameron, who picked up a top 10 at Beaver Creek. And I think it was either the downhill or the giant slalom. Yes, it was the Super G in Beaver Creek. Jack Crawford, sorry, not Alexander Cameron, James Crawford or Jack Crawford had picked up a 7th place there. So again, great results from our alpine skiers, top 10 finishes, top 20 finishes, and a medal bronze for Val Grenier. So there you go, kids and cubs. A lot to look forward to in this upcoming Olympic season, and a lot to celebrate. And also, oh yes, the Grand Prix finals figure skating took place in Japan, and unfortunately, there were no medalists from Canada in the open event. Um, the ice dance team of Gillis and Poirier finished fourth by 6/100ths of a point, and Stellato Dudek and Deschamps unfortunately did not have a good competition and finished sixth of the six teams that made its way to the final. And I believe they didn't even cross the 200 point mark total, which is extremely unusual for them, Kits and Cubs. And then there was the junior Grand Prix events taking place as well. And we had four Canadian teams in the event this year. I believe it was three in pairs and one in ice dance itself. And I'm trying to see if I can see where things ended up at the Grand Prix final. And I cannot seem to find that information easily as well. So I will put a note in my filing cabinet to bring that information to you as well on a future show, because I really thought that would be there and obvious for us, but it is not the case. So I will bring you that information tomorrow, kits and cubs. And with that, I say amour et bisous, and have a wonderful day. And we'll see you here again tomorrow. And with that, I'm gone.